to the call.
Well, here we are. It's lovely to see all of you. Welcome to our Founders Series tonight with Sam Daley-Harris. I'm Melanie Trent, and I'm here with my co-partner, Joan Bordeaux. We chair the membership committee, and it's just lovely to see all of you. We start our meeting with a look at our mission and vision. So without further ado, I'm going to share that with you. Our mission is to generate the social license and political will to restore the climate. And our vision is a climate restored by 2050. Along the way, climate restoration becomes the overarching goal of climate action by 2030. And when we say climate restoration, we mean restoring the climate to one that humans have survived long term, a place where our children and grandchildren can thrive with CO2 levels at pre-industrial levels in the atmosphere. And there's several of you that I have not met before. If you'd like to raise your electronic hand, we'd love to just welcome you. We're not going to have time for introductions this evening, but but we'd love to welcome you. And if you'd like to raise your hands now, I think I can probably see you out there. It's lovely to have you here. If you'd like to know about any events coming up in the future, please leave your name and contact information, your phone number if you'd like a welcome call and some specific information, and just leave that in the chat. With that, I am going to turn this over to Ms. Julia Dieterer.
And I've been given the distinct honor of introducing Sam, although I may not be the right person, but as I was thinking about how to introduce him, Sam, I was thinking, there are a lot of your children and grandchildren right here in front of you. And that would be in the sense of people trained by you. And maybe they weren't directly trained by you, but I feel that Peter got his early advocacy training by you with results 35 years ago. And I do feel like I've gotten trained by Peter, and by osmosis, everything that he has gotten from you and then created from there. I feel like one of your grandchildren in terms of that. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who would raise their hand and say they feel the same way, that you got trained directly by him, or you feel like by osmosis, that training came through. So he developed this training way back when the Hunger Project was developed, and he and I were teenagers, right? And it's kind of like advocacy for the everyday person, to help people find how they can get out there and make a difference with government. And I'm so pleased and thrilled that you've revised your book. And just to tell everyone the title, Reclaiming Our Democracy: Every Citizen's Guide to Transformational Advocacy. And no more, I'm turning it over to you, and we'll hear you speak, and then I know we'll have an opportunity for Q&A. Now you have to unmute.
Great. I'm glad you didn't say some of my great-grandchildren are on the call, because I'm not that old, but it's a thrill to be with everyone. I'm going to use some slides. I'm going to start with a couple of slides, then I'll come off, and then I'll go back to it. But I want to start with some thank yous. I want to thank Peter Fikowski for the gift he's given to me in terms of a sense of clarity and hope. about our climate. And of course, I want to thank everyone on the call and the board and the staff in the past and current staff and all of the activists who participated. It's a thrill to be with you. I'm going to start with 2 slides and then I'm going to come off of it. I've had the honor of doing a number of NPR radio interviews last month on national shows, and I've been blown away by how vulnerable these NPR hosts have been. I'm going to read this. This was the second question on an interview I did on 1A, and he said, the passive nature of our politics now, you can feel beat down by it. I mean, this is my career and I feel beat down by it. It's much more of an effort for me. I don't participate in the same way others do because I'm a political journalist, but I do have to pay attention. It's a grind. It's a grind, Sam. I mean, I know you know that. What am I feeling? What's the way out of that? I'm not an activist, but you know what I'm saying. The honesty and the vulnerability in that question is also the answer to why this book now, why rewrite it and re-release it. This is from NPR's Here and Now. Deepa Fernandez, later in the interview, she said, one of the things I found really insightful in your book, you say, to move from passively caring about something, say the environment, climate change, these big things that are actually happening in our lives, to actually taking action, we have to, and I'm quoting you from here from in your book, be honest about the hopelessness that's in all of us. I found that really struck a chord with me, Sam, because the issues we do care about sometimes seem massive and immutable. How do you move past that sense of hopelessness? And we're going to address questions like that and others tonight. I'm going to start right now with I know a number of you know this bit, but one of the main messages from the book is to know your why and share it. Marshall Gans at Harvard developed this story of self. It was kind of like what happened in your life and what decisions did you make that got you to this call, to this commitment. And so here's my story of self. And I want you to think about yours and what happened in your life and what decisions you made that got you to this commitment. This is a little shortened version of mine. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in music, and I played percussion instruments in the Miami Philharmonic Orchestra for 12 years and taught high school music. And then 44 years ago, I founded the Anti-Poverty Lobby Results. And a lot of times I'm asked, music, poverty lobby, what's the connection there? And when I look back in my life, there's certain experiences that start pointing me in a different direction. The death of a friend around high school graduation in 1964 and the assassination of Robert Kennedy Jr. Around college graduation in 1968 got me to asking the questions of purpose. Why am I here? What am I here to do? What's my purpose? 9 years later, I'm invited by my yoga teacher to a presentation announcing the Hunger Project. And I go to this event thinking, well, hunger's inevitable. What do I know? I'm a musician. Well, I'm thinking it's inevitable because, in my mind, there are no solutions out there. Because if there were, somebody would have done something by now. But I go to this event and I realize right away, there's no mystery to growing food, clean water, basic health, literacy. I'm not hopeless about the perceived lack of solutions. I'm hopeless about human nature. People will just never get around to doing the things that can be done. But there's one human nature I have some control over, my own, and my questions, why am I here? What am I here to do? So I get involved in a big way. And this is the end of the story. In 1978, 1979, I spoke to 7,000 high school students, classroom by classroom, on ending world hunger. And before I went into the first classroom, I read some statements from Jimmy Carter's Commission on World Hunger and others calling for the political will to end hunger. So I asked 7,000 high school students, what's the name of your member of Congress? I don't want to know if you wrote him. I don't want to know if you met him, just the name. Out of 7,000 asked, 200, fewer than 3%, could answer correctly. 6,800, over 97%, could not tell me the name of their member of Congress. And results grew out of this gap between the calls for the political will to end hunger on the one hand and the lack of basic information on who represented us in Washington. That's my story of self. And think about yours and, like, in a sense, knowing your why and sharing it like I just did mine. The main message of the book is transformational advocacy. In fact, it's in the subtitle, Reclaiming Our Democracy, Every Citizen's, a guide. Here it is. Sorry. Every Citizen's Guide to Transformational Advocacy. And I explain it this way. Everyone knows transactional advocacy, sign the petition, transaction complete. But with transformational advocacy, you're trained, encouraged, and then succeed at doing things as advocates you never thought you could do, like get a letter to the editor published on an issue you care about. And as a result of doing things you never thought you could do, you see yourself in a new light. You see yourself as a community leader. And I'm going to give some examples of transformational advocacy right now as I call up my slides. And we're going to go to those right now. Okay. Sorry, it'll take me one moment and I will be right with you. This first one is the story of Maxine Thomas. It's a story of transformational advocacy. And I always say, this is hard, hold on. This is Maxine right here with her US Senator Todd Young, Republican of Indiana. Maxine is an amazing woman, but I also say we're all amazing if we get the right training. Maxine is someone with a lived experience of poverty, and she joined a group called Circles for people motivated to move out of poverty. And her group realized they had a story to tell. So they looked around for an organization that could help them tell their story. And I'm going to go to full slide so you can see both of them. They're so beautiful. They found results and they Googled it, and she joins Results. And Maxine gets a scholarship to go to the Results conference in DC. She borrows luggage. And it's not till the night before her Hill visits, her meetings with her representatives and senators, that she realizes that the earned income tax credit is about to expire. These are Maxine's words from the book. She says, this is our first meeting ever with an elected official. The first congressional meeting on Lobby Day was with Senator Coates, Republican of Indiana, and brought new ahas. He was there for the entire meeting. I can still feel it. I was a ball of emotions. It felt like an out-of-body experience. I was processing being in DC, and now I'm in an exclusive meeting. We're all dressed up. It was high level. The volunteers were polished and sharp, but I was scared. Now, that's the normal thing. The first ever meeting, I was scared. That's normal. And worried whether I would say the right thing. In our case, let's say about climate restoration. I think it was Lisa who asked me, would you like to say anything? I thanked the senator and said, I learned last night why I'm here. I didn't know I could come here from Indianapolis to talk to you, someone who represents us and can help us. I can't imagine what will happen if the earned income tax credit is taken away from families like mine. The earned income tax credit goes to working low-income families. In 2020, it amounted to $3,100 received at tax time. I'm able to take a deep breath and catch up on my bills because of the earned income tax credit. I look forward to tax time because that's the only time I can handle my financial burden. I like to take my kids to the mall to buy shoes without worrying if it will take away from other bills. Senator Coates straightened himself up and said, wow, this has been emotional. Results, you do a good job of training people. Where did you find her? And then he thanked me. That was the year he retired. He was very connected, even though it wasn't on his radar. He acknowledged my voice and thanked me for being there. And then at the end of the day, at the end of all her meetings, she said, I was euphoric. I was on this high and felt I was part of something revolutionary. That's a far cry from hopeless and cynical. That is transformational advocacy. And so the question in the book is, how do you find organizations that are committed to delivering transformational advocacy? And here are the three things I call for. One, recruitment and building community. Bringing new people in and forming them into chapters, not building your e-blast list only, but bringing real people, talking to real people, forming them into chapters. That's the recruitment. And building community, a monthly, maybe it's more often, a whole of organization webinar, not just for the leaders, but for the whole organization. And Q&A, guest speakers, inspiration. Number one, recruitment and building community. Two, training. They want to improve your effectiveness. How do you get that letter to the editor published? How do you get a speaking engagement and speak powerfully about climate restoration? Three, encourage breakthroughs. They encourage their members to move out of their comfort zone because confidence grows and transformation happens when you're encouraged and supported in doing things you thought you couldn't do and succeed in doing it. In the book, there's this drawing on the bottom left is a small circle labeled your comfort zone, and to the right is a larger circle labeled where the magic happens. You want to find an organization that won't kick you out of your comfort zone, but encourage you out of your comfort zone over to where the magic happens. I'm going to give another example, and hopefully this will be as inspiring to you as it is to me. In 2019, President Trump called for a 29% cut to the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria after the Global Fund had saved 38 million lives since its launch in 2002. It was time for a Global Fund 3-year replenishment, and other countries would likely follow the US lead. Now, most people didn't know that the president called for a 29% cut. And if they did, they probably think, well, what can you do? You can't fight City Hall. Throw up their hands. The people I know roll up their sleeves and they get to work. And in this case, volunteers got hundreds of members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, to co-sponsor a resolution supporting the Global Fund in the House and Senate, to sign letters in support of the Global Fund to the Secretary of State, to the top appropriators in the House and Senate. So what do these revolutionary volunteer advocates look like? Well, they actually look like Margaret Smith, seen here holding Senator Ted Cruz's hands with two hands. She said, I learned in results to hold his hand with two hands and not let go until I finished my laser talk on the Global Fund to fight AIDS, TB, and malaria. That year was the first year Senator Cruz said yes to any results action. Instead of the cut of 29%, 2 House Republicans and 2 House Democrats stood on a stage in Lyon, France at the Global Fund replenishment and announced that the Congress would provide a 16% increase to the Global Fund, which it did. And by 2022, which was the end of this 3-year replenishment, the Global Fund partnership had saved 59 million lives since its inception in 2002. So why does this matter? How does actions like this affect people's lives? I'm going to do a reading from a book titled Race Against Time, Searching for Hope in AIDS-Ravaged Africa. It's from a compilation of lectures in 2005 that Stephen Lewis gave in Canada. He was the UN Secretary General's Special Envoy for AIDS in Africa. I started reading this excerpt from his book when my son was 11 and my daughter was 8, which is the age of the kids in this excerpt. They're now 25 and 22. But when they were 11 and 8, this is when I started reading this. which moves me so much. In this fourth story, Lewis tells how he and Gracia Michelle, the wife of Nelson Mandela, are taken to a sibling-headed household in Uganda. The parents have both died of AIDS. The grandparents and all the other relatives are not around. And the household is headed by the eldest child, sibling-headed household. There were 5 children in all, 3 girls, 14, 12, and 10, and 2 boys, 11 and 8. We entered the modest hut with our backs to the wall, Gracia with her arm around the 3 girls on her right, and I with my arm around the 2 boys on my left. Gracia then asked all the hangers-on to leave, all the UN staff, all the media, except for 1 community worker and 1 translator. I had no idea what was coming. Gracia turned to the 2 older girls and in a most gentle, reassuring voice asked, "Have you started to menstruate yet?" The 2 girls, clearly startled, replied in those shy, barely audible, whispered voices so characteristic of African children, "Yes." Then Gracia began to ask a series of questions. Do you know what it means? Have you talked with anyone about it? Do you talk with the villagers about it? Your teachers, your fellow students? Does anyone bring you any pads? The atmosphere was intense. The little girls, now fully embraced in Gracia's arms, seemed to have suspended breathing, and I suddenly understood that I was witness to the first act of mothering that these girls had ever received about one of the most transfiguring experiences of a young girl's life. I've told this story a number of times because the experience had a profound impact on me. At the moment that Gracia asked her questions, I thought to myself, that's what's happening right across the continent. The transfer of love and knowledge and values and experience from one generation to the next is gone, and with it goes the confidence and security and sense of place which children normally take for granted. Children already traumatized by the deaths of their parents are left reeling as they confront the void in the aftermath. As we were leaving, I asked the oldest sister, "Who puts you to bed at night?" "I put everyone to bed," she replied. "But bedtimes can be pretty scary," I offered. "The nights are dark. The dreams can be upsetting. Don't any of the neighbors come in to help?" "No," she said matter-of-factly. "I put them to bed myself. I'm the mother." So that's why people like Margaret Smith would work with their senators like Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, to work for children like the ones we just read about. This is my final story, and we're going to come to the conclusion. This one is about Ellie Sparks. It's also from the book, and I'll read her quote in just a moment. When Ellie joined Citizens Climate Lobby, she said, "I was suffering from climate trauma. I would read Bill McKibben's book, Earth, and I would weep at home, and I would weep at work. And then I joined CCL, and 18 months later, I was co-leading a workshop on getting relationships with editorial writers and members of Congress. Our executive director said, 'We're betting the farm on relationships, so go get a relationship with your editorial writer.'" And I always said, what in the world does a relationship with an editorial writer look like? Some in the organization used the model of a work relationship. This is what Ellie says in the book. "My relationship model is different. I adore romantic relationships. So I use romance as my model. That first meeting with the editorial writer, it's like a blind date, only you've decided beforehand you're going to marry this fellow. You're going to be sweet and interesting, not too intense. If it doesn't work with the editor, you're going to marry one of his friends at the newspaper, the business editor, environment writer, or city editor. Someone at this paper will find you interesting and compelling. It's just a matter of being persistent until you find the right connection." Then Ellie shared the essence of transformational advocacy. "During our conference, I met with 20 congressional offices. I met with many folks whose view of the world was very different than mine. Going into their offices was hard. I had to let go of a lot of emotional baggage. I could no longer judge them. or hold hostility in my heart toward them. I had to let go of my fear of climate change and my fear that they wouldn't listen to me. I had to center myself in love, releasing fear and centering in love. This is sacred and profound work. Who thinks about advocacy as being sacred and profound? Obviously, it can become that if you find the right organization and are open to it. So this is my newly worked mission statement. So I'll just read it and then I'll give us a final quote and what you might do. My mission is to inspire nonprofit leaders to create and citizens to actively join structures of support that deliver transformational advocacy and propel participants to become powerful citizen advocates who joyfully make a profound difference in the world. And let's be clear, when people were doing the Al Gore and Inconvenient Truth presentation, that was advocacy. In that form was speaking advocacy. When you speak about climate restoration, that's advocacy, speaking up for something you care about. So I'm going to share a QR code, and there's be a website also on the next slide, and you can find ways to order the book from there. You can join the Civic Courage mailing list. You can let me know if you or an organization you work with would like to host a book talk. It'll look like this. Let me close with this quote. I'll put the QR code up for a moment, and then we'll go to questions from George Bernard Shaw's Man and Superman. This is the true joy in life, the being used for a purpose, recognized by yourself as a mighty one, the being a force of nature instead of a selfish, feverish little clod of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I am of the opinion that my life belongs to the whole community, and it is my privilege to do for it whatever I can. I want to be thoroughly used up when I die, for the harder I work, the more I live. I rejoice in life for its own sake. Life is no brief candle to me. It is a sort of splendid torch, which I've got hold of for the moment, and I want to make it burn as brightly as possible before handing it on to future generations. End of quote. I'll leave this up just for a moment, and then I'm going to leave the screen. If you're interested in getting on the Civic Courage mailing list, if you or an organization you also work with would like to host a book talk, you can let me know that. And you can find ways to get a copy of the book from here too. So Julia, I think we're going to go to questions. I'm going to take this down. There you go. Voila.
Good. Questions or insight?
Insights, comments?
What's opened up for you here? Because this is a journey with no end, a mountain with no top, for all of us. We're all developing ourselves in this arena. So insights as well as questions. Yes, Sam?
And my question to those who might be thinking is, what is your advocacy with the Foundation for Climate Restoration that you're either excited about getting started with or you're already doing? Is it talking to groups? Is it letters to the editor? Is it other forms of making climate restoration real in the community and the world?
There's Carol England and then Melanie.
So Sam, thank you. I bought your book and I thought, since I'm going to listen to you today, I better start reading it. So I read the first few pages and it was like, yes. So one of the things I'm excited about a ton of stuff with regard to climate restoration, but one is on March 9th, I'm hosting a screening on Zoom of episode 1 of the documentary and sending out invites to every single person I can get my hands on. And so that is when I write the invites and I write the note to people, I'm like, when I say I'm thrilled, I'm like, no kidding. I'm thrilled to death that we get to do this.
Yeah.
And that and I'm the person who wrote the letter to Peter Coyote. That's something else that's very exciting to me, that I wrote the letter on Thursday. He called me on Tuesday and said, "What can I do for you?" So I'm into the writing for sure. And I am someone who, when I was in college and high school, writing was the last thing on my list. I would stay up all night. I wouldn't like doing it. Now I love doing it. And I've had several letters published. So as Peter calls me, I'm the spark. I'm loving doing this. And this isn't the only thing I'm doing, but I love doing this.
Can I ask you a question? And
Yes, of course.
congratulations. My question is March 9th, right?
Yeah.
And you're hosting March 9th.
Yes.
Yes. Do you have any co-hosts who are hosting it with you? Meaning you're the host and you're inviting all these folks. I'm just wondering if there are any others who are partnering with you in inviting others to come.
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. And it's Philip Pascal, who's right there on the screen. He's the one that got me into this, quite frankly.
So we can blame him.
He's inviting people also to the screening, and he and I have been meeting with John Bowie, and so he's my partner.
Great. Okay, great. Yeah, the more the merrier in like doing these invites. You know, if you sent it to X number of people and you see 5 of them are really, really key, you might call them up and see if they might not only come, but invite others and the like. But brilliant.
That's what I'm putting in my little blurb I'm writing. I'm saying that invite others. The more
Right.
the merrier. Family, friends,
Right.
people in your community. I know when John and Philip and I met, what John was thinking, it was just people in Petaluma. No, that's too limiting.
Okay,
We are
great.
inviting people all over the place. So I just told John, you got to have plenty of room on that Zoom. I don't want people locked out. So,
Okay,
so
great.
yes, thank you, Sam.
Almost.
Thank you very much for your
Yeah.
work.
Yes, Melanie.
Thank you, Sam. Well, Carol's always a really hard act to follow with her enthusiasm, but I was so excited about what you were sharing around developing a relationship with the editor. And, you know, we were meeting yesterday. We were getting ready to launch. Well, I'll let Carol talk about that in a little bit. But we are going to be reaching out to various publications in our next game that we're creating. And I never thought about creating relationships with the editor or someone there. And so I guess it's not really a question, but it just, that really excites me because it has me in a place of, oh, yeah, what about that? And I do have several publications in mind for that. The other thing is this whole concept of advocacy and what that is. And, you know, typically people look at advocacy as political advocacy, but I see that advocacy goes so much further than that. I've been a little stumped as we're sorting out, well, what do we need to do in the arena of political advocacy to really recognizing, oh, it's really in our speaking everywhere. And it's really in just standing up for our beliefs in the world. So just really excited to look at that and think of a different kind of direction, if you will. Yeah. So thanks for bringing that up.
Brilliant. Let me say a few things. One is what the Hunger Project was doing originally, enrolling people and the sign the card and I will create the end of hungers and ideas. That was advocacy. It didn't have to happen to be political. When the Hunger Project was doing briefings, ending hunger briefings, educational, that was advocacy. It's another kind of advocacy. So set that aside for a second. Then on the thing of, I don't know exactly what Carol's going to raise in terms of if there's a new report or a new paper coming out, and you talked about meeting with an editor. So there's the news side of the newspaper, not opinion. And then there's the opinion side of the paper, the editorial writer or the columnist or whatever. And I just want to say a couple of things. If you have a new report or something, and I'm making this up, it's coming out the week before Earth Day, or it's coming out on Earth Day. Yeah, it would be really powerful, of course, to have the report to give to the journalists to say, you make a connection and they say, yes, can you send me something? Well, you want to have something to send them. But the thing that I wanted to say, Ellie Sparks, who I was talking about earlier, her root in was she remembered that her babysitter's father worked for the newspaper. And she asked her babysitter's father for, in her case, the connection to the editorial writer. That was her root in, and other people have other roots in, but you want to be able to talk about the issue, be able to have something to send them, and then reach out. Who's next?
That is Joe Bordeaux.
Hi, Sam.
Hi there.
What I loved that you said was where you alluded to the discomfort that comes along with transformational advocacy, because I think the order of the day, the coin of the realm for people is feeling comfortable. Oh, let me make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Let me make you feel good. But I've got to say that the beginning of any new possibility for me in my own life has started off with mass discomfort.
Yeah.
So can you say more about that?
Yeah. So let me say a couple of things. One is, we're not saying, oh boy, let's all get miserable. No, what's a vision that kind of pulls you, and yet it's a little uncomfortable because it's nothing you've done before, maybe, or whatever. And so you start with the vision, and then an action you could take in furthering that vision. And then there might be some discomfort in taking that action. But you got to start with the vision first. And then you should be excited about the thing you're uncomfortable about too, kind of thing. So I don't know if that.
Yeah, I'm not talking about misery. I'm talking about if it's new and if it's big and if you've never done it before and if you don't even know yourself in that way, you're going to feel uncomfortable. When Julia Dieter invited me to be on the board of the Foundation for Climate Restoration, what I said to myself is, oh, I shouldn't be on the board. I shouldn't do this. And I stepped into her view of me in order to do that. And it wasn't comfortable.
Yeah. And yet, afterward, you see yourself in a new light in different scenarios.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally, but not in the
Yeah.
moment.
The Joan before Julia asked, or as Julia was asking, is now a different Joan in a way. Yeah. Good.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm going to jump the line because I'm the moderator. I just texted. I took a photograph of George Bernard Shaw's quote, and I'm just so moved by it. Sam, I probably haven't seen that quote in 40 years or maybe 30 years, but it's like bumping into an old friend who changed your life. Imagine that, a dead man, his quote 40 years ago changed my life. I'm very clear that that quote, I was on a new path, but that quote was like, here's your lane, Julia.
Yeah.
Here's your lane. And I'm just so moved about that.
Yeah.
I'm about to text it to, I was at a Super Bowl party and someone I admire, she runs a nonprofit, she's in her 40s. You know, just offhand, I just admire her totally. She said something about, whoever gets to be president, I don't care which of the three, they're all old men and worthless. And I thought, whoa,
Yeah.
that's interesting. So I'm sending this quote to her and just saying, just bumped into an old friend of mine
Great.
that changed my life. You know, it's just opening our mouth when and the why isn't always there for me, you know, when I'm making dinner, when I'm walking the dog. But when I get it re-inspired by the why, I step naturally into action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
going to say this quick thing, and then Philip, when that 1A host said, it's a grind, Sam, what can I do about this? You know, that whole quote. The first thing I said to him, well, Apollo astronaut Rusty Schweikert said, we aren't we aren't passengers on spaceship Earth, we're the crew. Well, if we're crew, how does crew operate? And that's what I see you all as on this call, as crew. Philip.
Wow.
Thanks, Sam. Well, I'd like to start out by acknowledging you, Sam, by giving you an update. Because, well, first, I'll back up even further. When I heard Peter and his daughter Erica do the keynote speech at the Conference for Global Transformation, I got transformed. So I said, I'm going to be a Peter. And so I started the North Bay chapter of Fans of Climate Restoration. And then with your coaching of Terry Pugh and working with me in building the chapter, I don't know how many people were in the chapter then, but it's now grown to 28 people, and 11 of them are on this call. And yeah, so as far as a great
One thing
opportunity,
you said when Joan was talking about a comfort zone, the whole notion of having support structure, having people around, you're not uncomfortable and alone. You're maybe have some discomfort and you have a team.
well,
Which is what you built. Go ahead.
the key is I got a great partner to start out with. Carol England was my co-chair, and her and me used to talk all the time and create good trouble and figure out what do we do now? Who do we call next? Who do we invite to be on in the chapter? It took like 20 invitations to Joan to finally get her to say, okay. And then she leapfrogged and got on the board.
Everyone should write those questions down. Who do we call next? Who's the next? Those are great questions.
And as far as what's coming up next is, in April, there's 2 tabling events that we're looking at doing. My co-chair was, when Carol went away traveling, Sally took over. Sally Wells was on the call, and she's my co-chair, and we talk and figure out, okay, how do we do this? What are we doing next? And Sally, I'm going to be away to my grandson's first birthday when our first tabling comes up in April at the wiffle ball tournament. So I just spoke to Sally and she says, okay, she'll be the point person as long as we get other people there. And then a week later, we're going to be doing a tabling at the Hillsburg Square right near Earth Day, like an Earth Day climate thing event that's happening. Frances McChesney was on the call. She's going to be there with her sister doing plastic, but we're going to be there doing climate restoration booth. But
just be clear about who comes to the booth and wants to just be on your list and who comes to the booth and is interested in being an active participant, and then follow up with those folks soon.
Very good.
Okay.
Absolutely. Anyway, I'll stop talking because there's a lot of people. I'll call the next person. Chuck, you're
Oh,
Julie is
Chuck
Julie next?
Tomaselli, yay.
Oh, okay. I'm in my line. Okay.
He took your job away there, Julia.
I know he did. He wants to take over the world, and I'm glad he does.
Oh,
well,
that's
yeah, but she leapfrogged me, so I have permission to take her job.
yes, she did. Sam, I just first, I don't think you know me or remember me, but I attended a Citizens Climate Lobby conference in Troy, New York in 2019. And you were one of the speakers that I elected to go to. And at that point in my life, I was pretty resigned and cynical about making any kind of a difference with government or large organizations or having any kind of impact. I kept working
Welcome
in
to
my
the
own
club.
backyard.
Welcome to the club. So many people feel that way. Go ahead.
So I was focused in my own backyard as a result of having the World Work event that I was at. In any case, as I sat there, I saw that I was resigned and cynical, and that didn't please me. But I kept listening, and what came up next was that I saw that resignation and cynicism was a betrayal of my love and commitment to my grandkids.
Hmm.
I went home and took on advocacy with Rotary, Rotary existed here, but SRAG and the environmental group did not. And we created a task force of over 400 Rotarians in central New York. Since then, we've also created an environment club that started with 30 members, and it's been pretty active. And then I bumped into Peter Fikowski, and he and Alon Mandel requested that I continue to take on Rotary. So currently I am the Rotary ambassador for the Climate Restoration Alliance, the Rotary International. And that's where my advocacy is. I happen to be late getting here, and I was doing some email work. I happen to open up a video that is right on the front page of the website for SRAG, which is the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. And I listened through the whole email, and there was not one mention of climate restoration. And this is the Rotary group. Also this week, I made application to start a climate restoration. I don't even think Peter knows about it. Climate restoration task force for SRAG, so that they know that we need to take on climate restoration. So I don't know what I'm doing. I just keep taking one step in front of the other. And I don't know how I got into this role, but I just, I found in my life, and Peter, just want to acknowledge you, he's the second person in my life that ever came across that he says he's a yes waiting to happen. I know a lot of no's waiting to happen, and I've always considered myself to be a yes waiting to happen. So we've had a wonderful time getting to know each other. Thank you for listening to me.
Brilliant. You started out with the cynicism. I wanted to share at least a part of a quote from Alex Steffen, a climate activist and futurist. He said, "Optimism is a political act. Those who benefit from the status quo are perfectly happy with a large population of people who believe nothing will get any better. In fact, these days, cynicism is obedience." Well, yeah, if I'm cynical, I'm kind of obedient to the way things are. I mean, if I'm cynical, what can you do? And so you kind of end up accepting and obedient to the way things are. Great. Who's next, Julia?
That is Julie.
Okay, hi there.
You can unmute yourself, and can't wait to hear from you.
And Julie, where are you based?
Hello, everyone. I am so happy. My name is Julie Mpembe from Democratic Republic of Congo, and I live over here in New York, United America. So I am so very happy, and I always feel my. I'm sorry because I am not an English speaker, but I do my best. So this is a big mission, and I tell myself, nobody give me that. That is God. Because the way we come on the earth, we come, each of us has a day he came, and then later on you're gonna find out. So you came to do what? Because we are the passenger on this earth. So if you discover your mission, that is a blessing. And I born on a small town, a village, no light, no drinking water, no road, nothing. And at that time, to have the girl go to school, it was a problem. They fighting me. Why you like to go take education? You need to marry, you need to do this. They fighting my father, my daddy, my mother. Don't send your daughter to school. She need to marry, give it a birth. But myself, I say, I need education. It can be the place I live. It's miserable. God is gonna provide. And the God did. I finish elementary, I go high school. We went to do the state exam. We was a 48 kid. We passed 4. Me and the 3 boys. Then the dean of that school said, no, you need to leave example before you go to university. You need to teach the kid on my high school. I said, I don't have a big degree. He said, no, with your high school diploma, you need to teach the kids to give them example. So that was my beginning. And I go to university, I finish, I have my bachelor in psychology. I go back on a Capiro to work as on an electricity company. I moved to Foreign Ministry Affairs as a diplomat. Then I came over here in America. So it was amazing. And I started to think, I look back, I live in New York. We have a light, we have a water, they have the road, they have the housing. I started thinking, I said, something is not normal. I'm not born in America. Before I came, I was traveling Europe, Vienna, everywhere, America too, but it wasn't enough time for me to come up to live. So when I started thinking about it, I said, no, something is wrong. How come I born on the 60 something and to now my town name Tandembelo is on a dark. We don't have a water, force water. We don't have anything. I said, is we living? So I started to see like a dream. I said, no. I started go to UN to participate to the conference. Then I found the sustainable development as the solution who they adapt on 2050. I look at that, I said, no, this is real. How come? No poverty, zero hungry, good health. I look at all 17. I am not over there. I am from a village. Congo is not Kinshasa. Kinshasa is the capital. So if they have a light, they have a water, that is the capital. But me, I am a village girl. I never see the light. I was reading with the little can, like a tomato can. My grandma teaching me to put oil and to bring the light. When I finish on the morning, my nose is black. So that things to now that I stand up with this. I say, God, Heavenly Father, I don't have anything. I am a single mother with my baby. I bring her my belly when I left the crime on the Congo. My daughter is 15. She cooking over there. I say, I need to be an advocate for this. I need to take this. I am like a witness because this is wrong. I look America, we have the same land. So what is, something is wrong. So if we easy God the time, easy God the time. And the God they said, Julie, open your mouth. What can I do? I don't have money. I don't have anything. I look back in my village. How can I connect with my village? God they tell me, it can be the job that you do. Spend your money. Buy a computer, buy everything. Look how to connect. How? Somebody telling me they have a company in Kinshasa capital, they can put the Wi-Fi. And I did today, but I'm stuck. I don't have the possibility to put the Wi-Fi money. I am just grateful and I thank God on my beginning, and I implement this program on a DRC. We have the office on a capital with address, everything. And on my smaller village, I am like a Moses. They call me angel. They say this is magic. How come you, Julie? How? So this is how he say how. No answer. And me too, I say, I don't know. I don't have any partner. I don't have that's a non-profit organization. Is not a representative for America. So is just on a Congo. That's why I am so happy. The way I see you, you be my partner today. I think
Thank
this
you,
is
Julie.
Thank
you, Julie.
You're welcome. So this
So-
is my solution. I
Yes.
very thanks God. And I look in Congo now, I thank everybody now, you see Congo, the blood is on the east. How those kids, they are the innocent.
Thank you,
Unbelievable.
Julie. Look at you. You have you use your voice. Wow.
I very need your help entire world. This afternoon, I said, God, I play my knee. I need a cookie for those kids who die on the Goma, Bukavu. Is how Heavenly Father help me. And when I went on the morning, so I am now late for the meeting. When they said no, easy 7 o'clock. I said, God is good. So
Thank you,
please,
Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mihai, your partner. Please.
Thank you. Thank you. Sam, we're about to finish. But I think we can go 5-10 minutes over. Would that be okay? And we have a couple of announcements. Cynthia, bring us home, and then maybe Jane. I'm sure they'll be quick. Go for it, Cynthia.
Okay. Well, Sam, I have been to one of your workshops, so I appreciate all the help that you've given us. I'm in Phillips district. But the thing is, I just, you know what, what you said was the one about instead of throwing up your hands, roll up your sleeves. I think that is just crucial to what we're doing. And I tell you, one of the things that I have done with Philip and Sally and Diane and Jim was to do some, what do we do when we're at the farmer's market? Tabling. And the thing is, and that what I have to tell myself sometimes is when you're approaching people, you're going to get the information to some of them and some of them not. But I still believe even those that turn you away, we're there. And I look at that as planting seeds. So this keeps me going forward. And I just wanted to thank you for all of that.
Thank you and everyone's recruitment and building community. So the tabling is the first step, the recruitment. Thank you.
Thank you for highlighting recruitment. Yeah, Jane, you're it.
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Sam, for all the work that you've done and, caused other people to really create all over the place great things. And I loved what you said about being out of your comfort zone and because of confidence, when confidence grows and transformation is possible. And it's being encouraged and supported by those people around you. And it's not about knowing how to do it. That was the other thing. I always find like and I love climate restoration, by the way, and just giving the book away or sharing it with people. It's had me have a complete transformation in how I see the environment. So that's and to me that matters. And I could go on and on about the different groups and things that we're doing, but really, this is such important work. Thank you so much for this. I did take pictures of the two slides because I think you really summed it up beautifully. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Final
Thank you
words,
so
Sam?
much, Jane.
Yeah,
Oh,
final
go
words,
ahead,
Sam?
Julia.
Final words for us, Sam?
Yeah, I just, the thing that I also I've identified that's in staff of organizations and volunteers of organizations is a fear of making big asks of volunteers. So I'll make a little puny little ask and people will do a little puny thing and not much will happen. And I encourage us to hold hands and make big asks that will make a difference. And let's see some big change. It's an honor to be with you all. And thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you so much. And back to you, Melanie.
Thank you, Julia, and thank you, Sam, everyone, for your comments. And it is time for us to complete. I do want to invite you to join us this weekend on Saturday for an I Am Humanity community gathering. I know we've invited most of all of you here before. There's not time for us to address this because we're going to close, but I did put a link in the chat, and I invite you to join us as we look at people around the globe coming together for a common cause, as we look at being in action, just as Sam has shared here today. And with that, I am going to...
Melanie, I think we had Carol, do you have an announcement? And everybody, please, if you haven't been on our calls, we would love to have your emails if you haven't put them in, so we can reach out to you and keep you apprised like that.
All
Carol,
right, we're just
would that be
committed
okay,
to
Melanie?
ending on time.
We already
Carol, I'll give you
do that.
I give you 1 minute. We're committed to ending on time, and
Okay.
so
Okay, thanks.
please share.
So yeah, I just wanted to warmly and eagerly invite everyone to come to our members meeting next week, and following Wednesdays we meet here at the same link every Wednesday, and we are going to be following up Sam's wonderful presentation by putting a number of the kinds of advocacy that he talked about into action. And we have some workshops planned, a series of things, so that members who come regularly will have a whole buffet of favorite activism, advocacy routes to get comfortable around and practice. So come next Wednesday, we're going to be exploring a couple of an old thing and a new thing.
Next month.
Thank you all. Thank you, Carol. And I'm sorry we've gone over a few minutes, and lovely to see all of you. We'll see you in the future.
Happy Valentine's.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Bye.
Yeah.
Valentine's
Happy
Day.
Valentine's
Bye-bye.
Day.
Happy
Together.
Valentine's Day.
Thanks, everybody, and especially Sam.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Diane.
Bye.